Welcome to the Secret Keepers podcast with your host, Corrine Zutleger. Join us as we uncover the hidden thoughts, stories, and moments that help bring light to the healing power of truth and examine how silence can affect us mentally, physically, and spiritually. We'll also share profound stories, interviews, and transformative narratives to help release ourselves from the hidden and step into healing towards inner peace, joy, and fulfillment. Now, here's your healing strategist and host, Corrine.
Welcome to the Secret Keepers podcast. Today, my guest is Diana Flowe, and I am going to have Diana tell you a little bit about herself.
Well, thank you, Corrine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Diana Flowe. I'm a nurse, and I'm passionate about helping other people in recovery. I have three kids, three grandkids. I help people in recovery, people that want to grow personally. I personally have 29 years clean and sober from alcohol and drugs, along with a lot of other addictions and issues like so many people do have. But my goal in life is to help other people live in freedom and enjoy life a little bit. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's so good to have you here. Just a little backstory for you audience is Diana and I met in a mastermind. So, as one of our mentors would say, the two of us could not have ever planned with our very best thinking the meeting because she lives in Florida and I'm in Wisconsin. But through this mastermind, we were able to meet, and not just meet, but become friends. And her story, that's why she's here, because her story is so impactful. And I know her mission, and it's one that I am so very passionate about and seeing. And I think Diana is a rock star, because to be 29 years clean and sober, it truly is. It takes every cell in your body to be able to be clean and sober for that amount of time. And so with, keeping in line with the Secret Keepers, can you tell the audience a little bit about what that journey looked like for you?
Yeah, so I will say it was a very long journey, but the short version would be growing up. I felt I had a lot of issues growing up, right? So I was very insecure, feeling unloved, didn't really have a good connection with my mother, but my father I did. Went through a lot of sexual abuse, no physical abuse until I started getting into relationships at a young age. And so I got introduced to drugs. Well, I actually got introduced to just marijuana in the beginning. And so I just, it was just a casual thing. And I started dating a guy older than me and ended up going from that to drinking a little bit. And I only drink on, special occasions. So it wasn't a big deal. But my mother would purchase it for me and say, as long as you don't do it outside the home, you're good. So I did that. And then, in doing that, I got introduced to other bigger things like cocaine and acid and then crack. And I did it a little bit until I met my second husband. I couldn't really afford it until I met my second husband. And when I met my second husband, well, then it was all out. It was doing it daily. So we ended up I got pregnant, had a kid, was strung out, and for several years lived from going, live 6 and 7 days, 8, 9 days at a time, staying high. But then I decided I wanted to quit and I couldn't. I was pregnant and I couldn't quit. So I went in and out of drug rehab and ended up, to make a long story short, finally, after I think it was about 4 drug rehabs, I finally got clean and sober. But in doing that, it took everything in me, like you were saying. It was in the beginning, it's not hard now, but in the beginning, it was what I lived and breathed. Like every second of my life was just trying to stay clean and sober.
So would you say, Diana, that I mean, obviously, when we look at somebody who has addiction, we see the physical component of it, right? But this was deeper. This was more than just your physical being that was being affected. This was emotional, mental, spiritual. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it's actually people think, just stop because you're using, right? But yeah, it is all that. It is all that. It is physical, it's mental, it's spiritual. You can't, I don't believe, from my experience, you can't just quit because you have to address the spiritual. I didn't feel like there was a God out there that could love me for as bad as I had been. I mean, I honestly had done some pretty bad things. And so, how could he love me? I mean, like, there's no God out there like that. I never knew a God like that.
Sure.
So, it was seeking to know a different God than I ever knew. It was creating a new mental because I started looking in the mirror all the time and telling myself who I really wanted to be, not who I thought I was. I would look in the mirror and say, "You are worthy of XYZ," or "You can do this. You are." Those weren't things I believed, but I told myself that. And so I did believe them. And surrounded myself with people who believed in me that I could borrow their belief, like our mentor, right? So at that time, I had a different lady that was in my life, and she believed in me. And those are the two people in my life, really, so far, that have really planted that in me. So there was the spiritual, the mental, the physical. And people say, well, my drug of choice was crack. So people say, well, heroin's worse because it's physical, blah, blah. That's the thing that people are always, even when I've said, I was a crack addict. And they're like, oh yeah, well, at least it wasn't heroin. Well, yeah, there wasn't the physical, but there is some physical, because when you start thinking, you start getting emotional with anything, right? So I
Yeah.
would start craving and then get nauseated and sick to your stomach because now you're thinking about getting high, and then it don't go away. And so there is some, it just isn't the same, but it's still torture no matter
Sure.
how you look at it.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine. So what I find interesting to me is that people will say, well, at least it wasn't, right? That's like a big red X to me. It's like, like no, like when we're talking to somebody that's been through something, it's that's not definitely not empathetic to say, well, at least it wasn't, right? I look at it and I think, man, to me, for you to take charge of your life to overcome an addiction, because in all of my investigations, since I lost my dad and my brother, and I really started to dig into this, like, why does this happen? What is really going on here, right? It's not like, oh, so today I have nothing better to do and I'm going to pick this up and, because there are things that immediately when you try them, they are addictive, but there's a reason behind the usage, right? The first time we pick it up, it's to feel better. Then the brain gets the hit, and it was like, well, last time you needed to feel better, you did this, and that made you feel better, right? So we're really looking at that thought process there, right? It all starts with the thoughts and how that created the feeling in your body. And I had read this and I thought it was so profound. And it was that, your addiction, it's out to kill you, right? Because that addiction is like this ego portion of you that says that if that you're not worthy. That's what you're hearing, like you're not good enough, and how could anybody ever forgive you for the things you did, and no God out there is ever going to love you or accept you or let you be part of anything greater or better. And I imagine the voices were getting louder and louder. And with that all being said, you started down a path anyways. You're like, I'm doing this thing. I have you said you were pregnant, and so you obviously you're a mama. You got this baby that is dependent on you. And what did that process look like for you in the whole, like, the transformation aspect of it?
So when you say, are you saying the transformation of starting or ending?
Well, like just the whole thing, like
I was
when you, like, one day you said, I need help and you did this thing. And so like kind of walk me through that journey and we got time. So you can take as much time as you want to talk about that journey.
okay. So let me say this. So in the beginning, I honestly, everybody says that everybody knows about addiction, so why would you do that? Why would you start using? Why would you start this or why would you start that? I did not. There are
Mm,
many people out there that don't know about addiction. They might know, they've heard about addiction, they might have heard somebody's addicted, they might have that, but they don't know the details of addiction. And I did not know the details of addiction when this started. I just drank. My mom said it was okay. So
sure.
so when this all began, I didn't get pregnant. I got married. I wasn't fully, I won't say fully in active addiction. I was addicted when I got married the first time at 15 years old.
Okay.
I got married at 15. I was actually not used, I was using pot here and there, but when I got pregnant, I stopped. That was
Yeah.
it. So if I looked at it back then, I would have never thought I was addicted because I just stopped, right? So I went after I had my son, I didn't use for a long time. I wouldn't say I didn't use. I didn't use on a daily basis, or I might drink a beer here or there, but not on a daily basis. My mom and I did not have a relationship that most people think a mother and daughter have, and we don't to this day. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like I had someone that I could call on and say, "Hey, can you help me?" So she was not my helper. I had tried with her many times to have a relationship, so that was not my go-to person. I didn't have
Sure.
a go-to person.
Sure.
So whenever I got it, when I got with my second husband, she took my son. So I didn't have any children with me at the time. He was with
Okay.
her, and I got full blown addiction. That's when we went daily. We were using every day. That's when I was using crack. That was not when originally it was like alcohol, pot, maybe some cocaine here and there. So whenever I decided that I wanted to get clean, I didn't really decide I wanted to get clean sober in the beginning, to be honest with you. DCF, DSS decided I needed to get clean and sober.
Okay.
I got pregnant during that time. And when he was really young and the addiction got really bad, we started getting in trouble with the law because my son got out of the house, and when he got out of the house, they came and they took us, told us we had to go get help. So I did all that,
Sure.
but I didn't have my mom helping me. I had family members that took my son, and we went to drug rehab a couple times, and I still didn't see the problem, or maybe I just wasn't ready. I don't know what the deal was, because
Right.
at the time you just do, you don't really know. So I ended up the second, let's see, I got after I got came out of, I went to drug rehab about, I think it was 3 times that year. And but I was so desperate. I was miserable. I hated my life. I couldn't quit. I couldn't use and get high like I wanted to. It didn't help me escape no more. And when I started using, I really started using more because I was hanging out with people that used, and that's what they did. So
Sure.
my husband, my boyfriend, husband, whatever, I remember saying to him, I'm not using anymore. We need to stop this because this has become a problem. But he kept using. So my need to be loved kept, I kept using to be with him because, I wanted him to love me and I needed him to love me. And heck, I didn't love me, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you because because I know that you did this work, right? And so you kind of like backpedal through and as you're, I know one of your processes because you shared this with me is you journaled. And I
Right.
imagine in those journals is where you were pouring everything out and where you started to see some patterns in there, some patterns of your behavior, some patterns of thought processes, and where the habits come from, right? The habits come from the thoughts. And um, so you speak to this, right? That you didn't love yourself. And I know like for the audience, maybe they don't necessarily get it. They're like, what do you mean you didn't love yourself? And so that shows up as, what kind of behaviors does that show up as when we don't love ourselves?
So I didn't love myself and I didn't feel lovable, right? So they just kind of married each other.
Sure,
Uh,
right? Yeah.
so what happened was at that time I was finding people in my life, number one, my husband at the time, who didn't know how to love me. He mistreated me. He abused me. Well, I didn't feel feeling unlovable and not loving yourself meant it was okay because I didn't deserve anything different than that. So I wasn't going to find anything better. So in my mind, he took care of me, which really was not taking care of me. In some ways, I'm not going to say he didn't financially take care of me, he did. But it led me to do things like allow people to mistreat me, allow my mother to mistreat me, for one, allow my spouse to mistreat me not doing things like when they say go to meetings, right? Because I started out step programs, when they would say go to meetings, well, I didn't go to meetings half the time because those people wouldn't care about me either. So feeling unloved and not lovable, then you discount everybody around you caring. And well, God probably didn't care either. So why even mess with it? Like when they would say find a God that will love you, well, there's not one. So now what? Right? And
Sure.
a lot of in-depth work with, at that time I was going to a relapse prevention therapist, which helped me to train a lot of my thinking. Well, she had me reading Dr. Wayne Dyer. I was reading all these.
Yeah.
I was like soaking it up because in my mind I said, I was desperate. Honestly, I was just simply desperate, and whatever I was doing wasn't working. So when she said, she would sit there and tell me, Diana, you were lovable. She would tell me the qualities that I didn't see in me. And so I wrote these things on my mirror. I'll never forget whenever, like one of the things that she said, my kids to this day remember it. And she said, when people are, I allowed people, because I didn't feel loved, right? I allowed them to call me names and say things about me that weren't true, but our thinking that starts getting in there. And then you start thinking, oh, well, they're right. They're right. Look at me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
look at me. The
Right.
evidence is here. Here it is, right?
So I started writing on the mirror, and that one thing that really helped me a lot was it's not what they think, it's what you know. Because she used to tell me, Diana, deep inside, you know this. And I'm like, really? I do? Like,
Mhm.
where's it at?
It gave me chills because I can feel that, right? It's that deep inside, I know that I am worthy, right? There's a remembering at a soul level that I am worthy. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah,
But
beautiful.
I had no clue, no clue. It was really, like you were saying, Corinne, it's like the thinking. We have to go back to our thinking, because I had thought for so many years in the early days when my mother didn't spend time with me. She never told me I wasn't worth anything. She just never told me she loved me. She never was there for me. She never spent time with me. She allowed people to abuse me. So my father did tell me he loved me, but I don't know where that went. But those early days led me to believe that I really wasn't worth anything. I was told I was a mishap. I got pregnant on a mishap. So my mom would do things, and I'm not blaming my mom, don't get me wrong. But those thinking patterns that I had originated from an early child, and a lot of them came from the thoughts of my perception of what my mom did, not what she said. So I don't blame her at all.
Right. And that's so important, right? I think I do see it a lot, the projection of blame out in society. Well, he made me, she made me, this made me. And while it may be true that the behavior of the other person, caused such an effect, right? When we're in adulthood here, it is our responsibility, right? The way we think, the way we feel, the actions we take, that's our circle of responsibility. And that's where we get to take charge and say, you know what? No, this is just a no for me. I want to do things differently. I get to love myself, even and especially if someone else didn't have that capacity to demonstrate that for me. I want to be like, for me, I knew I wanted to be, I'm going to put this in air quotes, I wanted to be a good mom, right? And so in knowing that, right, I'm going to be a good mom, what did that mean? Well, to my personal detriment, that meant I took everything on, and somehow their behavior and all their stuff was my fault, right? Another very low level of awareness. And so in doing that, we don't give ourselves enough credit for the how powerful we truly are, right? That power within you, the power within me, and every other human being to make different choices, to take responsibility for our own life. And look at you now.
It's amazing. To me, it's mind blowing. I will say this, I never even, so when, I tried to get sober, couldn't get sober. And there was a time I'm like, I'm done. I'm a useless case. I am everything they said. I'm a piece of crap. I'll never be anything. I'll never, my mom used to tell me, you're never going to amount to anything. And I would sit there. I tried to commit suicide because I said, I'm done. What have I got? I have nothing. I'll live this way the rest of my life. I can't do it on my own because I don't know how. And I'm obviously nothing anyway. God won't even help me do this. And in my mind, I didn't say help me. In my mind, those days, God won't do this for me, right?
Sure.
No God that cares about me like this. And so I tried to commit suicide multiple times at the end. I started when I was young, but in the end, right before I got clean and sober, I tried several times and almost was successful. And then I was like, when I came out of that, and I said, this ain't working.
Yeah.
I can't even freaking commit suicide. How terrible. Right. So I decided, you know what? Whatever somebody else says that has done this, I'm just going to trust what they say and I'm going to try it. I'll give it 100% and pray. And honestly, that's when it really started, that I started seeking a God. So my therapist told me, if you could have a God, my God didn't love me, didn't care, whatever. So if you could have a God, what would your God look like? So, oh, okay. And there was some cry. You can't say he's mean. You can't, it had to be fully accepting, loving, right? So I still have the journals to this day of where I wrote down this God that, he was just loving on me, and that is my God today. But back then, it was like this fairy tale, in my opinion. Like I was like, I'm trying to live a fairy tale. And I never would have, in my wildest dreams, thought that I would be even clean and sober today, much less be a nurse, much less be coming up on 29 years. Like none of that. That's still like pinch me, It's funny because even my ex-husband, who is still actively using, the one that I was using with, I help him a lot today. And he's like, Diane, to look at you is amazing to me. Like I've watched you transform into this person that's mind blowing. He's like, I can't do it. And I'm like, yes, you can.
Yes.
Everybody can do it, but it's hard as hell. Let's just be
right. Of course, because in your using, you're in your comfort zone, right? Because it's just comfortable. It's easier for me. And then it really does come down to those thought processes, right? Because that habitual thought was there. I often use the analogy of the tire in the mud, right? So I got the tire stuck in the mud and I'm just trying to gun it. I'm like, "Brrr," and I'm going to force this to happen, but I thinking the same thing and I'm thinking the same thing and I'm thinking the same thing. And now it's so far entrenched in there that you're buried in 10 feet of mud and you don't see the light of day. However, right, there's help, right? There's help out there. There's people. So like in your case, like your mission now is to be of service and show other people the way out, right? We have to want it, right? We have to want it and believe it. And in the moment, we need someone like you to say, I believe in you, just like you and I needed our mentor to say, I believe in you. I know that you are fully capable and fully resourced to do the thing, to get on a path where you are at peace with who you are, where you look in the mirror and you love what you see. And that takes being able to reach your hand out, and then somebody like you has their hand out and says, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. that actually makes me think of a moment at the Turning Point a couple years ago. And one of our fellow empowered living people, I'm up on the, I climb the, up the 100-foot rope to get to the top of the zip line. And, there she is, right? She's going to help me. Pushes the young worker aside. No, I got her. And she looked at me. She's like, I got you. Hand out, help up. I got you. And I think we're all looking for something like that, right? Is to say, let me help you. And so to share with the audience, like, how do you do that? Like, especially when it's somebody who's in the thick of it, like they're so ingrained, entrenched that they don't believe that there's any way that another human, however, whatever it is they look at as the creator, the source, God, whatever, that there's no way that anybody could love them, much less that they could love themselves. How do you help guide them?
That's good. You're so right. First of all, everybody needs that. They need one person that
What?
that is there for them through thick or thin. They don't judge. I think that's the key. So one of the ways I help people is I'm so non-judgmental. Like I don't care if I've been there or haven't been there, and I'm very I don't want to say I'm like the mama bear in the corner. You know what I mean? Like I am the person that you haven't done anything that God can't forgive. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I do is I don't push my belief system on anybody. What I do is I do say that you need to find a creator, a source, a universe, a God. So you got to have somebody that's bigger than you that can
Absolutely.
handle this. And that ain't me. That ain't nobody walking on this planet, right? So
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't care how you want them and what I just need you to be willing. All you gotta do is be willing. Be willing. You don't even have to say 100% believe. Just
Yeah.
say, I'm willing to try, right? And so what I do is I walk with you. I will help you, one, see how you can have somebody, just like I had that person that said, create that God that you want. I help you find the understanding of somebody more powerful than you.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing I think is that you got to be non-judgmental, because people like me have done some pretty bad things. If I shared some of the things, people have been so judgmental because you are not the same person.
Mhm.
Actively using, you are not who God created you to be, who you were meant to be, however you want to look at that. You are
Mhm.
acting out of an addiction. So I help people let go of that by really a lot of journaling. One, it's a lot of journaling. It's a lot of working on your thinking, um,
Yeah.
and reprogramming that thing, because that's key, right? You have to reprogram it. You can't wipe out everything that's ever been in there, but you can start today by telling yourself something totally different. And the more you tell yourself, as anything else, just like in the early days when you were told whatever, whether it was you telling yourself that or somebody else, you will start to believe it. And it's just a matter of time. And so what I do is I have a process of journaling, one-on-one, working with people, like changing the thinking, um, and just being there with them. I share my experience, and I go more in depth with a lot of my experience. And it just isn't the time right now, but I'm an open book. You know that.
Yeah.
And I share everything. It's things that I have done that barely how I became. They go, oh, and you were able to be a nurse. Thank you, Lord. It didn't go on my record. So I share those things, and I build a relationship with the person and just really help them reprogram everything about their thinking. And I'm the number one cheerleader for you. I'm the one I believe, I have no doubt in my mind that anybody in this world can do the same thing that I did and that
Yeah.
I do today. And so I do a lot of walking in the same how I got here. I do a lot of working with them in the same thing. I have had people in the past that one person that wasn't willing to be willing to find a higher power. And it's really sad, because if you're not willing to do that, you probably ain't gonna make it. And they didn't make it. Two of them didn't make it. And so I just believe that if you ever find that, everybody, I might not be a fit for everybody. I'm not a fit for everybody. It's not meant to be that, right?
Exactly.
But you got to find that person that you can go, yeah, that's my person, right? And really fall in line and do everything they say. You know, my way might not be perfect. It's not perfect, but there is, I believe that if you trust, and I trust that God, universe, however you want it, they will lead you into the place that you need to be.
Yeah, if you remain open, and
Absolutely.
remain open to it and receptive, and really starts, it starts with you, and it's, we've heard this over and over, it's a you and you deal, and it starts within you. You have all of your answers. You and I simply are guides. We're conduits. We get to walk with people and show them the light, lead them towards, to the healing that's possible, because it is. You and I are both living proof that healing is possible. Transformation is possible. It is um, beginning, right? The beginning with the belief systems, with those thought processes, and every step you take, celebrating that along the way, saying, you know what, today I made what first we'll start with an hour. I made it an hour, right? And then, right, and then, as you move into more hours, then it's days, and then, then I made it a week, and then, I read something that I thought was so profound, Diana, and it was, basically because cellularly, we get new cells regularly. And I don't remember, it's within a certain number of years, you become a whole new body. So, like, you're 29 years, clean and sober, but you have been a new person cellularly for many years, right? You've been this new in that cellular person has never even been an addict, because you've been clean for that long. And so what a beautiful message to send to yourself, to when you look in the mirror, and then you know that you're worthy, right? Because we're all worthy, because we're here and we were created. So
Right.
we're all worthy, right? We all seek love and connection. It's important. Um, but first and foremost, to be connected inward, right? And upward, and not necessarily, we this physical, the romance, right? It's like, oh, you complete me, I complete me, right? And then to know that we can trust, right? That we're rooted in a solid foundation. We have a solid, trust system, and you get to walk that journey with people. And I'm so grateful that our paths crossed. I 100% know, um, it was divine. It was divine that we got to meet each other and become part of each other's lives, especially because, like I said, I lost my dad and my brother. They were two people who didn't believe, right? They didn't know. They just didn't know what they didn't know, in order to make those shifts and changes, and look in the mirror and love what they saw back in that reflection. And so you are truly a rock star, my friend. And I just have, just a deep admiration for you, in the journey that you walk. And I know that you're full of lots of golden nuggets, but the secret keepers I like to have, that big kahuna, the one that you carry with you, like close to your heart, because this is kind of your shield, with this golden nugget. So can you just share with us that, this journey has given you this wisdom, and why don't you share with the audience what that would be?
I would have to say that the biggest thing is think outside the box.
Hmm.
That's been huge for me. Think outside the box. And love yourself no matter what other people think, and stay connected. You have to stay, or for me, I have to stay connected to somebody else that believes in me. So the biggest nugget would be love yourself and stay connected with somebody else that loves you unconditionally and is your biggest support. If you don't have somebody, make it your job to find somebody, because there are people that can do it. Whether it be a coach like we have, I'm there for people, you're there for people, but find that one person. That's probably the biggest thing. And no matter what, when it comes to this, drugs, staying clean and sober, it is just don't do it. You just never pick it up the one time, and you will never have to put it down again.
Yeah, as the brain just says, "Oh, you like that? That was really cool. Do it again." So it's better to abstain from it. And I, you know, it's important to stay in what you know that is good for your own personal body, right? It's like, I know, like I remember one of our first events was like, I know that I have a 2 cocktail limit, because after that,
Yes.
nothing good happens. It's like I used to tell our kids, nothing good happens after midnight, and that's why it's curfew. Nothing good happens after 2 drinks. But beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that wisdom. And Diana, if, I know there's going to be people out there that want to connect with you. Tell the audience how they can find you.
So I'm on TikTok with Diana Flowe. I'm on Facebook as Diana Sipes Flowe.
Okay.
And you can reach me at Diana, one N, at gmail.com.
Beautiful. And I will have all of that in the show notes, so that you can get in touch with Diana, if that is what you are looking to do. And just want to thank you, my friend, for coming on here and being so honest and raw with your story and sharing your wisdom with us here on The Secret Keepers.
Well, thank you so much, Corinne, and thank you for what you're doing, putting this out there for so many people you're helping. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining the Secret Keepers podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please give us a like and follow so we can invite you back. And if you just want more, visit CorrineZuleger.com. Remember, you're not alone.